The salt-laced wind whipped across the deck of the Sea Serpent, a relentless howl that promised both glory and doom. Captain Max stood at the helm, his knuckles white as he gripped the weathered wood. His gaze fixed on the churning horizon, where the sky bled into a tempestuous sea. He was a man forged in the crucible of 100 storms, his face a roadmap of battles won and lost, his eyes holding the glint of untamed steel. Beside him, the crew moved with the practiced grace of men who called the unforgiving ocean their only home. There was Gav, the first mate, a giant of a man whose fists could shatter oak, and Elara, the navigator, whose knowledge of the stars was as sharp as the daggers she kept strapped to her thighs. They were more than a crew. They were a blade honed for a single purpose. For weeks, they had hunted their quarry, a prize of legend whispered about in hushed tones in every tavern from Tortuga to Singapore. The Leviathan's heart, a gem said to hold the very power of the ocean's rage. It was a fool's errand, a suicide mission, but for Captain Max and his company, it was the ultimate challenge. They weren't pirates driven by greed, but adventurers fueled by an insatiable thirst for the impossible. They craved the clash of steel, the roar of the cannon, and the thrill of staring into the abyss and spitting in its eye. The sea was their arena, and they were its gladiators, forever seeking the next great fight. Suddenly, a cry echoed from the crow's nest, sharp and urgent. "Ship ahoy! Black sails off the starboard bow!" Max didn't need a spyglass to know who it was. The flag was unmistakable, a kraken crushing a skull, the feared sigil of Captain Iron Fist Vargo. Vargo was a ruthless brute, a scavenger who trailed heroes like a shark trailing a bleeding man, content to let others do the hard work before swooping in for the kill. He had been shadowing them for days, a patient predator waiting for the right moment to strike. It seemed that moment had arrived. "All hands to battle stations!" Max's voice boomed over the rising shriek of the wind, a Commander-S roar that cut through fear and ignited the fire of combat in his crew-S hearts. "Show this dog what happens when he barks at a dragon!" The air thickened with the promise of violence. Cannons were loaded, their blackmaws hungry for destruction. Cutlasses were drawn, their polished steel reflecting the grim determination on the faces of the crew. Gav hefted a massive boarding axe, a savage grin spreading across his face as he watched Vargo's ship, the Reaper, draw closer. Elara secured her charts, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos, her mind already calculating trajectories and weak points. Max drew his own blade, a masterpiece of shimmering steel that had tasted the blood of a dozen rivals. He pointed it toward the approaching enemy, a silent declaration of war. This wasn't just a battle for a treasure. It was a clash of wills, a brutal dance on the edge of a watery grave. The first cannonball screamed past their mast, tearing a chunk from the rigging and sending splinters flying like deadly shrapnel. The battle had begun. Return fire! Max bellowed, and the Sea Serpent answered with a deafening volley. The ocean between the two ships became a hellscape of fire, smoke, and iron. Grappling hooks flew through the air, their claws biting into the wood of the Reaper. With a primal war cry, Gav led the boarding party, swinging across the chasm of roiling water. The clang of steel on steel was immediate and ferocious, a brutal symphony of combat. Men fought with a desperate fury, their lives measured in the span of a sword swing. Their courage tested with every parry and thrust. Max remained at his helm, a strategic anchor in the storm of battle, directing his crew with sharp commands. He watched as Iron Fist Vargo himself, a mountain of a man with a prosthetic iron hand, stepped onto the deck of the Reaper, swatting Max's men aside like flies. Their eyes met across the chaos, a shared understanding passing between the two captains. This would not be decided by their crews alone. With a final, decisive order to his second-in-command, Max secured the helm and vaulted over the railing, his blade leading the way. He landed on the enemy deck with the impact of a thunderclap, his sights set on only one man. The final, bloody showdown was at hand, a duel to decide the fate of the Leviathan's heart and the dominion of the high seas.